Y'all know that clip of Jalen Rose when he was like, "What up, Detroit? Can't get a fade every day." That's how I'm feeling right now, man. Can't get a fade every day. I'm almost, I'd say, a month into this wolf. For those who know, like I had the waves on the top, and now I'm trying to get these waves on the side going, trying to get back on my 360 waves, right? And then I've been looking rough. Your boy been looking rough, but give me about another month. I'm gonna come clean. I promise. I'm gonna come clean. Y'all gonna be like, ooh. Y'all gonna be like, ooh, RJ. What up, though, y'all? What up, though? Uh, y'all see the shirt? Got the Pistons playoff shirt on today. I'm still repping, man. I'm still repping. Off season's in full gear right now. I got these. I got the shirt that got the dog tags on them because we got to talk about the dog today. The dog being JD. That's how Mason do it. Shout out John Mason. But we got to talk about Jalen Duren, man. We got to talk about Jalen Duren and what we would do with him because Jalen Duren did make the All NBA third team. With Cade making All NBA first team. So shout out to those guys. They're the first Pistons duo since Chauncey Billups and Ben Wallace were on All NBA teams back in 2006. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to those legends. Free Chauncey. But now Duren is eligible for the max contract he could get. So the question today is, do you give him that max contract?
Hey, what up, Bob said? So that book of sports, man. Appreciate it.
Little people, big people, all people. Welcome to Buffed Up Sports. I want to thank God for another opportunity to talk sports. Please go to Buffed Up Sports for links to my social media pages and ways to support the show. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Enjoy. So yes, Jalen Duren is eligible for a 5-year, $287 million extension from his rookie contract with the Detroit Pistons. Pistons. Do you go ahead and give him that? Mind you, before we talk about giving him the offer and all that, let's keep in mind two things. The one, the Pistons could give him a 1-year, I think $9 million qualifying offer. That would basically be if nobody else wants him and we don't extend him for the big contract, he could stay another year and we could go from there as far as figuring it out, right? But that's probably not as likely to happen with Jalen Duren. What I do see happening is there might be some teams looking for him. You know, to keep in mind, there's only, as of now, 3 teams with the cap space to sign Jalen Duren right now to a max offer, and that would be the Los Angeles Lakers, the Chicago Bulls, and the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets don't faze me. The Chicago Bulls don't faze me. The Los Angeles Lakers might be looking to move on from Ayton, considering they got Luka, Reeves. You know, they're more in a win-now situation compared to those other 2 teams. And we don't know if the king, LeBron James, is coming back or not yet. So the Lakers are probably more in the let's go mode. I don't be surprised if the Lakers do try to talk to Jalen Duren. So let's say, what should the Pistons do? What I say the Pistons should do is stay pat. Relax. See what his market is looking like. I think that's the most simplest and easiest thing to do right now for this Jalen Duren situation. It's such a unique situation because of the fact the man averaged 19 and 10 in the regular season, and you like bet. You know, he made his first All-Star team. You know, he was dominating this regular season. Then he gets to the playoffs, and he just was a shell of himself from the regular season. It was rough to watch. It was disappointing. He got benched for Paul Reed, for crying out loud. He didn't play the fourth quarter of a playoff game because of how bad his performance had been. So with that all being kept in mind, I've said it on here before, I'll say it again, the playoffs is where you make your name known. That is where you get your money. I've said it so many times how we have seen players who did not do so good during the regular season, did good in the playoffs, got paid because they showed up when it mattered most, right? Jalen Duren did the opposite, though. He showed up in the regular season, which was nice to put the Pistons in the position they needed to be in. But at the same time, he didn't show up when we needed him. That's why I say go ahead, hold off, stay pat. What I think the Pistons should do is see what his market looks like. I say Mind you, he's a restricted free agent. So we could match whatever teams give him. So that's why I'm like, you know what? If a team like the Lakers want to offer him a contract, see what the Lakers offer him. If it's worth it to you to keep him, you match it. And if you don't think that contract is worth it, you let him go. And now you got that cap flexibility to go get somebody else. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to keep him. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have to accept that he got to go if somebody else is willing to give him more. The one thing I will say though is, if you ask me, am I a Jalen Duren believer still? I gotta say yes. Like I said, I know the playoffs is where you show up. That didn't go so well, but he's only 22 years old. I know everybody keeps saying you can't use that as an excuse all the time because he's in the NBA. You know, you at the point where you got to step up. He's 22 years old. What were we all doing at 22 years old? That was just a couple of years ago for me, and I know what I was doing. So it's like, I gotta be fair, right? I do think some of the responsibility has to go to Cade Cunningham for his play in the playoffs, only because it's the guard's duties to find his big man. Now, Duren has to make himself accessible, but Cade, the all-star superstar player that you are, you got to find a way to incorporate him as well. So we got to think about that. My other thing about Jalen Duren is why I'm still a believer, because I say this. How many big men in the league are truly better than Jalen Duren? Like, seriously. How many do you think is better? According to the All-NBA teams that were announced this offseason, you have Victor Wembanyama, the Joker, Nikola Jokic, and you might can argue Chet Holmgren from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, that's an arguable one. But then Joel Embiid, if healthy, you know, he could be in the mix. The Twin Towers from, you might want to have one of those guys between Jared Allen and Evan Mobley in Cleveland. Karl Anthony Towns is a name that you might consider, you know, you could argue for Duren. You can't name 10 guys in the league better than him, though. And as you see the list I'm going with, I just named a little more than 5, but even out of those guys I named, some of them you can still make a case for Duren being better than. So how many guys are undisputably better than Jalen Duren in the league is what I'm trying to get at. A center like him is hard to find. And he's an old school center. You know, he plays back to the rim, offensive rebounds, put back, you know, that kind of thing. He ain't shooting the three-pointers and all that. And maybe that's what you got to look at this offseason. Duren, we're going to work on the jumper. He showed flashes of his midi during the season this year, right? He showed flashes that he could hit that midi. I do go ahead and say you might have to ride this Jalen Duren wave for the time being. I saw something right before I started recording, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but basically it was saying like Dwight Howard, right? Who we all know was a multi-time all-star, defensive player of the year multi-times, you know, took the Orlando Magic to the NBA Finals one year, and he was an all NBA center for many years in a row. And in fact, he was the best center in the league, I say, for a 5-year stretch once Shaq left his prime, right? So I say all this to say Dwight Howard, you know, Hall of Famer, which he is, right? But the thing I read earlier, right before I started recording, was Dwight Howard was in a situation in Orlando where he had a playoff performance coming off an All-NBA season where he didn't play the greatest. However, he turned into a superstar off that, as he made, I think it was 5 straight All-NBA performances after that. Again, multi-All-Stars. Magic made the finals in that period. People have compared Jalen Duren to Dwight Howard. So that's the point I'm trying to get at. And I say Dwight Howard is a great ceiling for Jalen Duren. Because if he can become that Dwight Howard, again, we're talking about a Dwight Howard who took a team by himself to the NBA Finals. And you put a guy like that next to Cade Cunningham? Y'all seen what Shaq and Kobe did for the Lakers in the early 2000s. It's almost the same thing. A 1-2 punch. Hear me out. I said, what if Jalen Duren's floor is an Andre Drummond. Just saying. I still think that's pretty respectable because Andre Drummond was also a double-double guy, 2-time All-Star. Don't sleep on Andre Drummond. So I go ahead to say you might need to ride this Jalen Duren wave, Pistons fans. But let's just go into it with open mind. Let's see what they cook up this offseason. Pistons, hold tight. See what that market is looking like for them before you jump in anything. Because the worst thing you could do is rush into a move, and now we're stuck with a guy for 5 years who is no good. But then on the flip side, you don't want to let him go. And it's like, dang, he's a freaking superstar on this team that he's with now. So decisions will be made. But if it was me, I think that's the way you go about it. You see what that market look like, and then you make a decision from there. Until then, ride the wave. It's still all dog around this mug. Thank you for tuning in, and go to buffdubsports.com and subscribe to the channel for the latest. Now remember to spread love, keep your chest out, hold your head up, show off them pretty teeth. Don't you worry about a thing. Until next time, y'all be good out there, and God bless you all. Peace.